One of the things that business owners forget a lot is to prepare for their own retirement.
Hi, my name's Nick Palavita, and today I'm with a very special guest, a certified financial planner, a chartered retirement plan specialist, and president of National Pension Partners, Max Couliet. Max, tell me what you do at National Pension Partners.
Well, Nick, we help successful small businesses and professionals put together retirement plans that provide them the maximum retirement benefits and big tax deductions at the same time.
Well, how do you do this?
Well, we get on an internet conferencing system with the client. We review their goals, what they want to accomplish, and then put together strategies to help them in implementing a retirement plan that benefits them, not everybody else.
Well, that sounds really good, but how much does this cost?
Well, it's really not bad because the first consultation is free. That allows us to go through and discover whether this strategy works for that business and for you as the business owner and helping you maximize your retirement.
Well, Max, how do we get this free appointment?
It's really pretty simple, Nick. You can either go to our website below or call us at 877-252-1692, and then we can set up a time with either myself, Nick, or one of our other retirement plan specialists, another CPA or advisor in the office to go over this with you and make sure it fits for you.
Hi, my name is Lewis Haupt. I work with National Pension Partners, and I work with businesses to allow them to put the maximum away that they can for themselves and to save taxes.
Hi, I'm Brad Coyle, and I'm the brokerage manager at National Pension Partners. We're always analyzing plan fund choices in order to ensure the participant's success.
If you want more information on how we can help you and your business put more money away in a retirement plan than you ever thought possible, contact us at the website below or call us at 877-252-1692.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Media Show on the Pod TV Network. I'm Nick Palavita. I'll be your moderator for today's show. And of course, on the Media Show, we discuss all things media. With that, we do have somebody who's going to be beaming in who has been on our show before, has written a book on Trump and Lincoln. We're going to bring in the Honorable Gretchen Wallet. Gretchen, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, but then I'm always doing great. So I have that problem. So tell me, what has been the response to your book? I know you had the book come out. I have it up here on my shelf. What has been the response on the book that you wrote on the Trump and Lincoln?
Well, really, really good response. Of course, when it came out, there was a little bit of issue because it came out right after January 6, 2021. And we all know what happened there. We had I don't know, in light of the brand new information, which we didn't know was brand new, but the FBI actually had over 270 agents in the crowd, and we know they actually were instigating and doing things like that. But January 6th, has been the most incredibly bizarre and false narrative that I think our government has produced in my lifetime. But the book came out right after January 6th, and it was difficult. We had social media censoring and not allowing a book that had the word Trump and the word fight in the same title. So that was difficult. But finally getting things out there, an overwhelming response. People realizing that Donald Trump is actually such an incredible American president standing up in the face of Democrats and the kind of nation that they want to turn America into. And of course, that's what Lincoln did in standing up to the Southern Democrats in the slave nation that they wanted. It's not slavery today in that sense. It's a very different, it's socialism. It's a different kind of elite that the Democrats promote. But yeah, the book has so much support and has done really well. And of course, it is still relevant. It may not have come out just the other day, but it is such an incredibly relevant comparison to what Donald Trump is continuing to do in his second administration. And the connections to Abraham Lincoln remain relevant. We can look ahead to see where is our nation headed by actually looking at the incredible division and the escalation in violence by the Southern Democrats and people against the message, the two different nations that were battling at the time, pro-slavery and anti-slavery. And we see violence escalating today between the two different visions for the nation, and there is very little common ground in between. Actually none. If you see what different Americas are being, I don't know, supported. And of course, Donald Trump is leading the battle to stop the globalist socialist agenda in favor of the faith, family, freedom agenda of patriotic nationalist America.
Are you familiar with Newsmax and Chris Ruddy by any chance? Newsmax or TV?
Oh, I am familiar with Newsmax, yes.
Okay.
Chris Ruddy, not so much.
He's the CEO of Newsmax. I've been talking about coming on our show. So I was just wondering if you knew him at all, but just curious. Well, there's, as we know, there's two sides to every story when it comes to the Donald. And we have our friend in Canada who's waiting on the outside who has a whole different story. As the thing is, the friends in Canada aren't there. And also has issues with the Ukraine-Russia war that's going on. So, Sasha, talk to me a little bit about this conflict, I should call it, between Ukraine and Russia, and what do you think America's doing or not doing for the Ukraine?
Well, we have Ukrainian show for well over 3 years now, and our network, and particularly this show, is the only one in North America. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but North America for sure, which predicted Ukrainian win for all this time, 3.5 years. And although very popular point of view in the United States specifically, and until recently, Trump's administration was that Russia is a much bigger country, by a much stronger country, and therefore Ukraine has to agree to certain concessions, the loss of its sovereignty, 20-25% of its territory, and all kind of obligations of not joining NATO or European Union or both, and so on and on and on. The Putin demands are enormous. In fact, his overall strategy is to conquer Ukraine, not just 20-25% territory, but all of it, putting its so-called friendly government there, and therefore Ukraine would cease to exist as an independent nation. And since he cannot achieve these goals, he is now turned to absolute terrorism. It's terrorizing all Ukrainian territory by bombardment of peaceful Ukrainian cities. They don't even pretend that, well, they were attacking some military targets or so on. It's not, they're not even saying that. They do kill a lot of peaceful Ukrainians, including children, including women, older citizens, because they cannot do anything on the front lines. In the last 2 years, they acquired 1% of Ukrainian territory. If the war will continue the same way, to conquer the Ukraine, he needs 250 years. That's not that's not possible, of course. Now, coming back to United States and Europe just as well. Ideologically, they should all support Ukraine because this is the fight against aggressor, against tyranny, against a country that is there to destroy and liquidate, actually, Ukraine and Ukrainian people, unfortunately, too. So therefore, I would expect that these countries would provide incredible help to Ukraine, and if it would happen, Ukraine would already won the war. They probably will win the war anyway, at least that's what we are talking about in our programs. Because Ukrainians now are providing absolutely incredible depth of ingenuity. They are devising new systems of both defense and attack, and they've destroyed now close to 20% of all oil refineries in Russia, and continue to do so. So therefore, the time and moment in the Ukrainian war shifted heavily in favor of Ukraine. And if the West, and it seems to me that even Trump administration now turned into supporting Ukraine, they're selling a lot of weapons to Europe. So Europeans are paying for all these weapons and then delivers them to Ukraine. Russia is intimidating Europe by all kind of drone attacks, and their fighters, they're going into airspace of NATO countries more often than not. They are doing a hybrid war in Moldavia. It's a key. If they would be able to control Moldavia, they would have an access to attack Ukraine from the west, and primarily hitting the town of Odessa. This is my hometown where I was born. And this is incredible situation where Russia, which was threatening all the free Western countries for the last 80 years with all insinuation of nuclear attacks and so on, this is the time when Russia can be disabled for a long time, if not forever, because if Putin will lose this war, it will lead to disintegration of Russia into 7, 8 territories, and neither of them would be threatening to the West anymore.
So when you say disintegration, Russia could actually break up into a number of separate countries.
What's happening in Russia is for, say, forever, for the last 1,000 years, not 1,600 years. Okay, it doesn't matter. Moscow is using all the other territories to enrich itself. It's taking all money, all resources from all other territories, and they understand that, but they're helpless at the moment to do anything about it. So if Moscow will lose the war, then all these territories, I'm talking about Siberia, I'm talking about national republics like Tatarstan and Bashkirstan and many others, they will try to get from the Moscow's orbit, and that will take maximum of a year, maybe 2 years, to have fait accompli. And this is why Russia has I must admit, no other way as to continue the war instead of, well, instead of agreeing to any peace agreement. What's happened here is that Russian economy is going really to collapse completely. It may, even if Ukraine will not continue its counterattack and just simply keep the front lines, a few months from now, maximum a year from now, Russian economy will collapse and will not be able to produce any weapons or any things of substance. Unfortunately, latest analysis of Ukrainians of their Russian latest drones, they show that they have up to 50% of the parts coming from Switzerland, United States, and many other Western countries. Even if that would be somehow at least, if not cease to exist, but at least controlled, so less and less elements would be coming Russian way, Russia would not be able to continue produce its drones, which are
So
heavy.
if Russia collapses, what happens to the 1,700 nuclear weapons that Russia possesses?
Either way, it could be split between all these countries, or there could be, when the United States won the Cold War against Russia, they could liquidate all Russian weapons, nuclear weapons, for a token, say for $1 billion. Russian would sell. They didn't have any money at the time, in the 1991, 1992. They didn't have money even to pay $10,000 for a grain transport in Rotterdam. They needed $10,000 to pay for port charges and dock workers, and they had to call for Russian parliament, and President Yeltsin at the time and all his helpers, they were participating in that meeting, and they were looking for $10,000. So imagine that US would offer $1 billion, say $2 billion for their nuclear arsenal. They would gladly rid of it because there was no way that they could use it at the time, and to have extra couple of $1 billion would definitely help them a great deal. But United States administration at the time, they didn't have strategic vision of what's required, what has to be done. And they were sending some chickens and some other products to Russia. On why, nobody knows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gretchen, what are your thoughts on the Ukraine-Russia conflict? Should the United States be more involved, less involved? Are we probably the right amount involved? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, coming from simply viewing what our American president wants, I know Donald Trump wants peace.
No.
The death toll is horrific. The American people do not want to continue sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, not knowing that it's all going to the war.
Anymore.
So I imagine this, and we don't want an endless war. So, Donald Trump absolutely knows what's going on in Ukraine as well as in Russia. And in managing, I guess, how we support it, we just have to wait and see. I'm not sure that injecting any more of American just throwing money at it. I do appreciate a deal in which we receive something for the weapons that are going there. So I am not necessarily interested in continuing to support Ukraine in fighting this war. But if it's true that Russia is on the verge of collapse, I'm sure Trump knows that, and that the workings behind the scenes are probably significant. He'll come at it with whatever direction he needs to in order to help end this conflict. He really does try to work on those unendable conflicts and try to be a person who can step in and help end them. So, you know, this is nothing new, a conflict between Ukraine and Russia. How it comes out is, I don't know, anybody's guess. But I know America does not want to continue an endless war or supporting an endless war. So that's where I'm going to leave it. There are two sides. There are more than two sides to this issue. Ukraine, I'm sure, wants to just continue receiving money so they can continue fighting. Russia, whatever their situation is, both sides are losing. And in order, you know, we'll just wait and see. But I know those things are true. Trump wants peace. I'm sure Russia and Ukraine want peace. How it happens, we don't know. But we're definitely against an endless war. And apparently it will not go on endlessly, because if Russia does collapse, as you said, there will be some significant changes coming.
Yes, Sasha.
Number one, U.S. does not help Ukraine financially, at least for the last several months since Trump became a president of the United States. There are no money.
And that's what we voted for. We voted to not continue helping Ukraine endlessly without something in return.
Done deal. You're not helping Ukraine endlessly or in any other capacity. United States are out of it. They will be very soon out of Taiwan as well, because part of the negotiations between Emperor Xi and Donald Trump is that Donald Trump has to sign that they don't object for Taiwan joining China. And that will spell the end of this China-Taiwan story. So Trump is getting out of Asia. He's getting out of Ukraine. He's out of Ukraine completely. Ukraine doesn't even talk to U.S. about continuing its help or so on, because there is no help, period. Europeans is a different story. The war is in Europe. And Ukraine is a backbone that will defend Europe against Russia. Ukrainian army is the only army in the world that can fight Russian army. They are stronger than all, say you take France, England, Germany together. Ukraine is much stronger. And together, I believe, in very soon, Ukraine, Poland, and Scandinavian countries will form a new coalition independent of NATO, United States, and all other factors. And they will deal with Russia on their own. That's what's going to happen, and this is spells the end of Putin and Russian Empire. So American can be assured that they're not providing any more financial assistance to Ukraine. Furthermore, they're now making tons of money on Europeans, selling them all kind of weapons and so on. And Europeans are delivering it to Ukraine because they understand that if Ukraine will get out of the war, doesn't matter how, whether they will lose or they will make a peace with Russians. So now Russia will be free to continue to Baltic states and Poland, and then further on. And as we know, the Article 5 of NATO is no longer working. So Russia has now a free hand with the help of China and North Korea. I wouldn't worry about Iran because Israel will take care of Iran very soon. So at least these three countries, they are threatening all Western civilization, and North Korea is now getting very close to missiles that can hit United States, and they have nuclear devices. So that's another what you have to take into consideration. However, Trump is a genius and he knows what he's doing, so God helps him.
Yes, Mark.
I had a question for Gretchen since we had her on the show before, and we had mentioned this idea of a farm show with her and her husband and everything along those lines. So I was wondering if she's talked further about that and when we're going to get our farm show or our show about the agricultural land, since she is in the heartland of America and this is the media show. So I was just wondering if you've thought further about this and when we can get that show, since I am the de facto program director here on Pod TV and everything like that. So when can we get the farm show?
Well, I've thought about it. Busy farming right now, busy doing other things. Have not pulled the trigger on that one yet.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully we'll get that trigger pulled, because it would be a great show to hear what's going on in the agricultural lands over there in Wyoming, where you are, and everything like that. Hey, Rick, I got a question for you, just a media question as well, and everything like that, because, you know, there's these lovely TV shows where they kill off the main character and then the main character comes back, and apparently one of the cartoons did that recently. So The Simpsons, Marge, and I'm thinking maybe even Gretchen's a fan of The Simpsons, everything had died and everything along those lines, and apparently had married Ringo Starr and had also gotten involved in a lot of other things in the afterlife, but is now making a return and everything like that. Even though
So
it's like,
you're saying that the Simpsons killed off Marge Simpson?
they killed off Marge Simpson in the final episode of last year, and now she's back in the new episode. So,
Well, so I mean, the Simpsons have been on for what, more than 30 years?
yes.
Right? And they get a lot of criticism that the more recent episodes aren't as good as the earlier episodes.
Yes.
So I don't know how many people are paying attention to this. But yeah, it's got to be one of the longest running shows in history.
I would think so, because this a new season it's a 37th season, and they've dealt with politics. They've even had episodes where Trump was president before Trump became president. But yeah, in the season finale, Marge worried Lisa and Bart were drifting apart, and there was a flash forward, revealed Marge is dead while Lisa is commissioner of the NBA, which used to be the WNBA, and Bart lives with Homer in their house, and together.
All right, so I'm looking it up, and the episode you're talking about is a flash forward 35 years into the future,
Right.
where Marge has died and is looking down at, I guess, grown up, Bart and Lisa. So she didn't die in the, but anyway, all right. So I don't know how many people are paying attention to The Simpsons.
Did you watch The Simpsons, Gretchen? Were you a Simpsons fan and everything
No,
like that?
I've never been a Simpsons fan. We tend to go for other more wholesome shows, but yeah, it's definitely a cultural show. But no, I don't follow it. I haven't followed it. I can imagine where it has gone and will go.
They've definitely gone some political left areas, and they've gone to probably some political right and other things along those lines. But yeah, they've been around for 37 years, which is a long time, as you know, Rick, in the TV landscape and everything. But the other things that people pay attention to, and maybe Nick has got some thoughts around this as well, if he comes back and everything along those lines. And then I was going to get to you, Sasha, as well, is this notion of who's going to play the Super Bowl, because people worry about all kinds of things in the cultural landscape, and apparently Bad Bunny is going to be making a return trip. So, Rick, any thoughts around Bad Bunny and his Super Bowl announcement? Because that was announced, I believe, yesterday, that he will be the Super Bowl halftime show in February.
So Bad Bunny's been on TV quite a bit lately and has shown himself to be, a decent performer in acting as well as music. He's from Puerto Rico, which is part of the U.S.
Yes.
He said something about not doing concerts in the U.S. for political reasons, but now he's going to do the Super Bowl. So I don't know. It's like everything now. There's a political dimension to it.
Definitely. Sasha?
You mentioned something a few minutes ago about agricultural show.
Yes.
I would be looking forward to see what you're going to say on agricultural show, because right now American agriculture is at critical point. Many countries are not, or at least stopped buying grains and anything produced by U.S. farmers, and countries like Canada and Brazil and many others are stepping in and supplying now grains. So a lot of farmers in the United States will go out of business simply because there will be nobody to sell their crop. So there will be subsidies, somehow they will be allowed to stay alive, but it's only a short-term solution. In the long run, U.S. with this aggressive foreign policy of tariffs and alienated many countries around the world. I wouldn't say all countries, but close to it. So economic viability of U.S. is very seriously jeopardized. And farmers, it's a backbone on which America had its prosperity for the last 70, 80 years. It's coming to the end.
So farmers have been under pressure for decades and decades. Farmers have a suicide rate 3 times as high as the rest of the population. Trump gave huge subsidies to farmers in his first term. In 2017, he gave farmers $11.5 billion. In 2020, when COVID shut down demand around the world, Trump gave U.S. farmers $32 billion in subsidies, and he's talking about doing similar subsidies now as tariffs shut down the market for American goods around the world.
Yeah, and part of the reason of doing that, as I mentioned to Gretchen a couple of times when she's been here on the show before, is this notion that growing up in the 60s as a youngster, and then even the 70s going into my teen years and everything along those lines, was that the Farm Report in the South was a very popular show, and it was very much a needed show because that was part of what was the important industries, just like AI is now. Farming was an important industry in the South, so I thought a farm show that didn't touch on U.S. farming, but also farming in other countries would be a good show and everything like that. So I've approached both Gretchen and others that I knew were rural lifestyle people about doing a show around farming and all along those lines, because I think it's an important industry that isn't talked about. I know Nick talked about things that aren't talked about enough, and I think that our conversations around farming used to be popular, but aren't talked about as much as they should be at this particular time, whether that's here or whether that's in Brazil or whether that's in Venezuela or other places that this network is fortunate enough to go to.
And the American farmer has, we're at the mercy of commodity prices. We're at the mercy of who buys what. We're at the mercy of importing things that we grow ourselves. So we're at the mercy of all of these. Right now, beef is high. Anybody who raises cattle is doing well, but that's the way it's always been. Corn we'll get maybe around $4 a bushel. We used to raise corn, I think 2012 or 2013, we got $7 a bushel. So it's an up and down thing. Farming, we hope that we can pay our bills for the next season, but a lot of people, it is a lifestyle. But yeah, the 80s were incredibly difficult for the American farmer. China buying up land and even government lands. It all affects the American farmer. It is a difficult way to make a living, but that's nothing new to the American farmer. I have no doubt that, hopefully for one thing, you talk about subsidizing the American farmer, for food prices to be low. That was brought about years and decades ago. And it's just a fact of life right now. But I do appreciate being able, DOGE finding the USAID absurdities that money, billions of dollars, were going to these incredibly bizarre projects, and hopefully, going to the American farmer, subsidizing a way of life so that, and we work hard. We have a product we want to sell, and when the price dips way low, it's, to some people, it is, a lifeboat for Americans, for the American farmer. But yeah, we are at the mercy of commodity prices depending on what we grow. We tend not to do so much corn now because of the dip in the price. And, hopefully those exports will improve and the imports will be offset in order for that
So I have
for farmers to get what they should be able to make a living with.
I saw your hand, Rick, but I had a quick question for Gretchen real quickly. What are your thoughts around farmers that are involved in what used to be called sin products and everything like that? Like right now, it would be marijuana and stuff like that. And historically, it was tobacco, which was a big product here. And some people might even put cotton in that category as well. But what is your, because of its ties to slavery, but what is your ties when people are looking at some of these products that are part of our backbone in terms of farming, but that have also had some colorful history, like the tobacco farmer with cigarettes and the cotton farmer with slavery and a number of other things?
Well, the cotton farmer, one thing about American ingenuity is you can develop machines that actually are able to harvest anything that a farmer decides to grow. There are states where marijuana is legal. We are not one of them. But south of us in Colorado, really, really hurting the certain segments of the population being so prevalent down there. But it's legal to grow. People make money off of it. I'm against it. However, cotton, there's no issue. The last thing I knew was Abraham Lincoln passed the 13th Amendment, and blacks are no longer forced to pick cotton. It's funny, I saw something on social media the other day. Somebody was putting down a cotton plant decor as if there was something innately horrific about a cotton plant. No, it's the history behind it, but it no longer exists, that history, as far as the connection. So I kind of dismiss that as
What about the
an
connection?
absurdity.
What about the connection of tobacco and to cigarettes, which are definitely known as a carcinogenic and other things along those lines? And even in North Carolina, I think tobacco prices or tobacco production is down, and a lot of people have gotten out of that industry. My mom ran the Golden Leaf Foundation, which was trying to get people out of that industry until she retired more than a decade ago and everything like that. But what is your...
I hope that industry completely disappears. It is horrific to our population. Why marijuana has been legalized in areas, and I know the arguments, but tobacco has to run a course. Balancing freedom and regulation is difficult, and trying to outlaw alcohol, we know how that came out. So no, I hope the tobacco industry goes out of business. I know there are a lot of farmers that still continue to grow it. In our area, we have farmers that grow sugar beets, but it is dying out because the sugar factories have gone to other places, because it has been easier to go to places where you don't make sugar from sugar beets, but you make it from sugar cane. And so, it's the waxing and waning of life in this world. But yeah, I do hope that either farmers retire and no longer grow tobacco, or it just dies out. But there is still a demand, and it is killing people. Not unlike other things that have, come and gone. But yeah, it's like the horse and cart. It really disappeared with the automobile. We'll see what happens with other things that disappear with new technologies. It's simply a part of life. But yes, we are kind of in the middle of things that affect all of us. But American farmers, yeah, it's tough sometimes, and it kind of depends on the year, and sometimes it depends on the administration. So it's just there.
Understood. Rick, you making a point about something?
So go to Sasha. I don't know that my point's that important.
Sasha?
There is a certain segment of people in Canada, in the United States, and all over the world who enjoy smoking good cigars after dinner, for example. I'm one of them. And if that American cigars would no longer be available, there are plenty of cigars from Nicaragua, Cuba, Spain, and many other countries. So people who enjoy cigars, they will be not left out of the products. In the meantime, the American growers of tobacco, okay, they will grow something else. Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
So I have questions about Wyoming and farming. I grew up in Colorado, and we kind of understood that Wyoming, most people live close to the southern border, I assume because the further north you go, the harsher conditions are, but I don't know. Is Wyoming growing in population, and are some farmers being able to like sell their land to developers? Is that what's going on, or what's happening with farming in Wyoming?
Well, the population is not so much growing. People move in and people move out. The population centers are relatively small compared to any other state. I believe our largest city, Casper, well, I think it's Cheyenne right now, but I don't know, 35, 40,000 people. So there are population centers, but there is a lot of open land. There's a lot of bad land. There's a lot of cattle country. The farm country tends to be in certain areas in which you have to have irrigation. There is dry land where you can grow sunflowers or wheat, but most of the land that is irrigated, you can grow corn and alfalfa, feeds like that. We tend to move all of what we grow into our cattle. It goes as feed, but we also sell alfalfa to other producers. So when you think of where Wyoming is, of course, is north of Colorado, and Wyoming tends to grow what Colorado grows. Fruits don't do as well here. We can't really get a crop of peaches very well in Wyoming. So the further north you go, that affects that. North of us, of course, is Montana, and north of Montana, of course, is Canada. You realize that Canada has incredible farm country, but mostly wheat because it is so far north. But yeah, Wyoming, farming is not, it's only in certain areas because there are not huge swaths of land like Colorado. Half the state is flat, and most of your farm country is on that eastern side, the flat, and it is good farm country. Some on the western slope, more toward on the other side of the mountains, you get small pockets of it. But Wyoming, there's a lot of bad land. There's a lot of country that has no water or very insignificant amount of rainfall, and you can't grow a whole lot there. You can pasture cattle on it. So it's mostly irrigated farmland in certain areas. But as far as population growth, I don't think we have good enough internet all over the state, or a good enough country for people to want to really come in droves like they are entering Colorado. Farmers are able to sell their land it's interesting, to people coming from Colorado, in which they have sold their land for huge amounts to developers, and they come up and buy farmland in Colorado and settle down to farming again. So that's kind of an unusual dynamic. But yeah, our population tends to wax and wane, not necessarily continued growth, because we are limited in our industries. We're also limited in just good land that you can get water to. So
Hey, question, what is Wyoming like sports-wise and everything like that? Because I don't think Wyoming has a professional sports team. I know that Colorado does and a number of others, and maybe that's one of the expansions. But y'all will be getting a professional team at some point or another. I do know that y'all have some good college teams over there in different sports, but what is it like in terms of the sports landscape?
well, we have one university, and that is in Laramie. That is where Josh Allen played football. And of course, he's now with the Bills. We have one university. Most of Wyomingites support that University of Wyoming Cowboys. So that is all we have. And I don't anticipate us getting a sports team until we have a population that can support it. So in the meantime, a lot of people here love the Broncos because they're in such good proximity. So we pay attention to them. We pay attention to the Buffalo Bills because that's where our own Josh Allen is now 4-0, by the way. And we do hope they do get to the Super Bowl this year. Speaking of Bad Bunny going to the Super Bowl, I really hope Josh Allen's going to be there. Otherwise, people are very committed to their small communities, high school sports. We do have community colleges. I don't know if we have 5 or 6 community colleges, 2-year colleges, but they have sports as well, and it's mostly local support for all of those. But that's kind of the way it is here in Wyoming.
Any
So
major
a couple
baseball?
more, a couple more questions. One is, why is beef so high? I understood that beef the price is controlled by the meat processors, and there's only 4 big meat processors. Then they're always squeezing ranchers. So what's happening with beef?
Well, if you look at how beef has it all has to do with not necessarily the processors. It has to do with the beef population. There have been years of drought in Texas. There have been huge amounts of beef that had, the populations are down. And when populations of beef are down, your price is going to go up. The beef numbers have not rebounded from those terrible years of drought that Texas has had. Texas has an incredible amount of beef. But different things have affected the total population of beef being raised in America. And that's basically why it is so high. There has not been a rebound to get those beef numbers up to where they were a decade ago, or even sooner than that. But yeah, it really basically is the amount of cattle being raised, and not just the processors. So that's kind of what's at the bottom of it. Once those beef numbers come up to, and you can probably Google beef population in the United States and see where that dip went and connect it to environmental factors, various other things, and so as far as I know, it is the overall beef numbers, and when they're down, it affects the price as anything, supply and demand. The supply is not as high as it could be. So
Hey, Gretchen, I know you're very much a Trump supporter. You've been on the show several times and all along those lines and everything like that. But I'm just wondering, what is your thoughts around some of the people in his administration, particularly RFK Jr., who's got this Make America Healthy Again campaign and everything like that. But he has had some severe criticism around some of his viewpoints, including autism and Tylenol and all along those lines. But I just wondering your take on some of the Trump administration appointees, most particularly RFK.
Well, I'm all for drawing, information and help from whatever area it's important to do. Of course, Lincoln brought together a team of rivals in order to pass the 13th Amendment. Trump has put together, you can call it a team of rivals, but I think it was important to bring RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, these others into the administration to be a part of it. The only thing I have to say about Tylenol and autism is we know that ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, if Trump had not supported them, they would have drastically reduced the death toll in America during COVID. And I am still angry about that. Just because Trump is for it, people were against it. And I have no doubt that at some point, the truth will come out about what causes autism, the horrific spike in autism in children, whether we know exactly what does it or not, but err on the side of caution. But because, there's this absurdity with pregnant women on the left taking Tylenol just because Donald Trump said, don't take Tylenol when you're pregnant. So I think it's an easy thing that can be solved, but I don't think it's an easy thing because of the heightened political hatred of the right, the conservatives, Christians, and Donald Trump.
All right, so we're in a big country, and you can always find a couple lunatics doing crazy stuff. So I have no doubt that a couple left-leaning lunatic pregnant ladies took Tylenol as a political gesture. It doesn't mean that you've got hundreds of people doing that. It's just a couple lunatics. Now, the reason Tylenol in pregnancy is an important issue is because I think it's the only recommended pain reliever for pregnant women.
Tylenol does not recommend giving its own product.
Tylenol says don't, but your doctor will say if you've got minor pain and fever, the only one I can say you should take, but only in as doses as small as possible, is Tylenol. You can't
so
take.
They should rethink that.
Well,
if there's any possibility of it leading to autism, it could be a number of factors.
Here's the issue: that fever in the mom is dangerous to the baby as well, and you have to weigh the risk of Tylenol versus having unchecked fever. So it's sometimes you have to do something, and if you're going to do something now, with regards to the explosion of autism in people, autism wasn't even a term until 1943. It didn't enter the DSM, the big book of mental disorders, until like 1979 or 80. So most of the epidemic of autism is just an increased recognition of what autism can be. I'm on the spectrum. I wasn't diagnosed because when I was a little kid in the 60s, that diagnosis didn't exist. I was just a weird kid. And now, increasing, like they didn't know what autism looked like in girls. Now there are a ton of girls getting diagnosed because diagnostic professionals understand a whole different set of symptoms with girls versus boys. So most of it, they've done studies showing that most of the increase in diagnoses are due to not more people having it, but of increased awareness of what it could be.
Yeah.
So we need to get to the bottom of what causes it. And if there's any question at all, about whether something causes it, and I have no doubt that there can be studies, but we've discovered that there are certain political issues with doctors. I had, whenever we had COVID, and my husband had a really severe case of it, and the doctor.
Yeah.
It was, I'm like, that's absurd. Why would you have him vaccinated for something that he has already developed a natural immunity to? And we've discovered that, well, the doctor was paid for every dose that was given of the vaccine. You know, there are different things like that, and people are more cautious. I have daughters now who err on the side of caution. They don't take anything when pregnant. They do a lot with organic stuff. And I didn't raise them that way. They simply have learned that because they care about their children. So whatever causes autism, it needs to be determined and then get rid of whatever causes it, or make sure that people are truly cautioned about the effects of it.
Sasha and then Rick.
Speaking about autism, there is an American tennis player by the name Jensen Brooksby. He is autistic person, yet he did so well in just recent, still ongoing tournament in Japan, and finally, I think in semifinal, he lost to heavy favored Fritz. And Taylor Fritz, he will be playing now in final against Alcaraz. So autistic people, at least in this example, they can do enormous, valuable things in their careers. So I don't know exactly what makes him autistic. I'm not familiar with this. I didn't follow his career, but when I learned that he's autistic and I start look at him and his face and so on, yeah, there are signs of autism. There is no doubt about that. Yet he shows great results.
I look at autism as, well, but your brain, as it develops different areas of ability. That your brain has a bunch of, you've got language ability, you got the ability to move, to perceive space. You have all these subsystems in your brain, and then they're all supposed to come together into a well-functioning whole. And I feel like autism is like a disorder of the last step of sensory integration, making your whole brain work together as well as possible. And you often see autism in people not understanding other people, that people with autism often have handicapped social skills. And that to me seems like a defect of whole brain integration. Like putting, you build the whole cake layer by layer, and then you put the icing on. I feel like autism is a disorder of getting that last step done. And I feel like a lot of stuff can cause it, genetics, environment, and that there's no one cause that is causing autism in everybody.
What if autism is a result of the very first development of that brain? In the womb, what if it's the first? I feel like it probably is in the womb, and it's one of the first things that is affected, the beginning of the brain developing. I don't know. We have to find out, but err on the side of caution.
I know we're winding down and everything.
We got to go because we're at the hour and we have timeshares coming up. I want to thank our speakers and our guests and our viewers in the United States and around the world, and we'll see you next week on the Media Show on the Pod TV Network. Bye-bye.